Serita.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Um,
Yeah, we'll
Oh,
give folks a second to hop on and then we'll get started.
cool. How's the Wednesday treating you?
Not too bad. I think, now that we're in like these 20 days out, like every day is just kind of a blur. It's like something gets done and then we're a little bit closer to the election.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I went to vote this morning, and so I was gonna go yesterday, but I drove by the library and there was a line around the block. I'm like, no,
Oh, wait.
that's not gonna
Yeah,
work.
that's real.
I'm wondering if, like, with the holiday, I think a lot of people may have had the day off since they were able to go, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. But I was able to get in and out this morning, no problem.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm gonna go vote tomorrow. My husband and I will both have the day off, so we're like, oh, we'll go do it together.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll just give folks a couple minutes. Was there anything in particular you wanted to talk about? I mean, obviously, we'll talk about your art, but
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I can just talk a little bit about myself and kind of how the project came to fruition, and very curious to hear about some of the work that you've been doing. I think that's I'm very excited that we were able to get paired up to talk,
yeah,
'cause I'm not an expert in any of this. It's just like, it's always good to kind of talk to folks who know what they're talking about.
totally. I mean, look, we know what we know, and we'll figure the rest out.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to give folks a minute, but for the folks that are logging on, welcome. And are you mostly like a digital artist?
Well, so it's a mixture. So I'm a photographer and I'm also an art director, creative director type. So basically, I work my day job. I work at an ad agency in Dallas, and we do, you know, it's a full service agency. So I do ads and.
Everyone wants to say hello.
All right, hold on. Hey, Nora, come on, let's get some water. Oh, that reminds me.
Hello,
Um,
folks. Welcome for joining. We're just getting settled in.
Thought I had her all set up before we got started, but did not
That's
have enough
like,
water. This child hydrated.
absolutely, absolutely.
All right, there you go.
I mean, multitasking. I think that is. I think that is the way of our world.
Man, let me tell you. But yeah, so I work at an ad agency in Dallas, and it's a full service agency. So I've got, I'm an art director, a designer. So uh, I kind of created this campaign, and it was really just kind of it was born out of just anxiety about the election. I was like, I need to do something with my hands.
I
so
gotta get this energy out somewhere.
I started thinking about it around the time that, we were kind of going through the postal service issue where it was like all of a sudden, these machines are getting torn apart, and I think that created a little bit of anxiety for me. Not necessarily for Texas, because upon further research, like a lot of Texans are not able to vote by mail. Just there's a lot of stipulations, this. And so I was like, well, I don't know if that's really clear for people. So I kind of wanted to communicate that. I've been thinking about, Shirley Chisholm, because, with Kamala being nominated as a vice president, first Black woman, Asian woman. like that's huge. And so, that had kind of been running around in my head. And I was like, well, is there a way to kind of connect this to Texas? And, I thought about Ann Richards, who was governor in Texas when I was a little girl. And I always had like an affinity for her because, she rode motorcycles and she was just kind of badass. And so I visited the governor's mansion when I grew up in Austin. So, I visited the governor's mansion when I was little, and I was like, I went to her home, and, so she's always been this mythical person for me. And whenever I think of Anne, I think of Barbara Jordan, just being a Black woman, like she had a very large presence in Austin. And so like, library, and she had an elementary school down there. And so, I thought, there's a trio of women there. I'm wondering if there's there's a way that I could connect those three women. And so, that's kind of how the campaign came about. I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I was like, I guess I should do this on Instagram because, it seems like the format is right for it.
Right.
And I worked with a copywriter, Chandler, at the agency that I work with, to kind of help with some of the research part of it, the words, like I've got these quotes. I want to make sure that we're giving factual information. And so she kind of helped me with the stat, just about like the majority of Texans don't vote, like people who are eligible to. And that's huge, it's like Texas is not a red state, it's just folks don't vote. And so we don't really know. We have a hunch, but, and so, she helped me with that. And, just the specifics, like most of us can't mail in vote unless we're disabled, unless we have, or, differently abled, unless we have,
right.
We're in jail, unless we, like there's some stipulations over 65, like majority of folks, able-bodied folks are not able to, mail in their votes. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that. Like, look, I know there's a lot of talk about post office, but look, we gotta, you're gonna have to show up. Yeah, bring a chair. We're gonna have to bring a chair if we need to. And I remember in February during the primary, there was, these lines of like Prairie View and stuff where folks were in line for like 6 and 7 hours. And I'm like, so we're gonna have to like get our tools ready, like stock up a lunchbox and, bring a folding chair. It's ridiculous. It's something that needs to be
prepared,
fixed.
get available.
Exactly. Yeah. It's something that needs to be fixed. I don't know if it's going to be fixed,
I know.
Time.
It's frustrating when people can't vote.
Yeah.
I get
it. You want to say hi? Say hello. Hello.
Oh,
there.
Hi.
All right.
Oh, look at those bows.
Face shader. Okay, now you're
look
out.
At your pretty bows. It's like, what's going on here?
Anyway, so that's what spurred the campaign, and I was really happy when Heart to Heart kind of reached out and just like, hey, we think this is interesting. Do you want to talk about that? And I was just like, yes, if you vote your heart. She is a future voter. And so she actually went with me to vote in February. I would always kind of make a habit of taking her with me to vote, even though she's like in a stroller, just because that's something my mom did. Like I remember being little and getting picked up from after school and care and going with her to some other school to vote, in an auditorium or something. And so I think it's something that was kind of handed down to me, and I take it very seriously. And so, that's how
she also
takes
it very seriously.
She does. She does.
Yeah, I mean, voting was such a like regular thing in my house growing up. Mm-hmm. Like my grandma voted, my mom voted, like everyone just talked about it. Like I remember like being like in middle school and doing like speech and debate and like kind of bummed that I couldn't go vote. Like wow. I was like, we get to talk about these things, but like I can't be included too, because I had just been hearing so much about it. And I'm originally from Houston, so Houston politics I think has always been like a really like Houston, Dallas, like our big cities, Austin, mm-hmm. Politics has always been a big thing mm-hmm. within the community as a whole. So definitely experiencing that. And I think after 2016, like I was like, I don't understand how people don't vote. People who can vote don't vote. I get that there are barriers. I get that voter suppression, especially in a state like Texas, is very real. But like for the people who voting is easy for to not get involved, I'm like, I just don't get it. Like I don't like. There's so much at stake. And you know, when I first saw your artwork, I was really drawn to it because, you know, I feel like it really like meets the average person. Like I talk about this a lot at work of, you know, we spend so much time around people in politics, like at the Texas Democratic Party, that like sometimes we forget that like this isn't how normal people are living. Like this isn't how the rest of the world is taking in this information. Which means we need to adjust accordingly and speak to people in a way that's actually accessible. And your art felt like that. Like it you know, it's eye-catching, and it's understated, which allows you to like fully take it in, to get the message of what's going on, and then kind of leave you with something to think about. And I love that it's like a series of like seats, like and like chairs. For the folks watching, you can check out her art at Roneka. That's RONEKAP, as in Paul. And this is some of the awesome art that we are talking about. But yeah, I really loved kind of the themes that you were bringing up. And, you know, like you were saying, as Black women, as Black folks here in a state like Texas, voting means something very different than it does in other places. And to be able to have that right to vote, exercise that right, and then face some of the challenges that we still come up against. Like you were saying, back in February, when we had very long lines at like Prairie View and at some of the other HBCUs, you know, I am excited that the party is so invested in Texas right now, because then we got to work with those areas to make sure that we're not seeing that again in November. But I mean, that's real. Like not everyone can be like, okay, well, I'll wait in line for hours.
Like physically, that's hard. It's hard to stand somewhere for.
So, you know, it's as unfortunate that it is, I feel like the things like Instagram, things like these conversations are really highlighting when and where and how that's happening, so that we can finally start addressing it and even getting ahead of it in some cases, making sure polling, like on our end, making sure polling places are appropriately staffed, making sure that, you know, people are aware of, you know, in somewhere like Houston or Dallas, during the early vote, you can vote at any polling place.
It took me a while, like several years, to get that concept. And I don't think it's publicized.
It feels a little, it's like, wait, I can just go anywhere? And now, I mean, Houston is doing 24-hour, they're piloting 24-hour voting. They're
that's awesome.
Running drive-through voting to help deal with the pandemic. You know, Chris Hollins, who is the county clerk there, has really been doing some creative work to make it more accessible, because again, you know, you're a parent, like, okay, so I'm supposed to work all day, find childcare, extra childcare beyond the childcare that I needed for the day of work, wait in line. I guess hopefully my childcare can deal with dinner, because I'm probably going to be in this line, like so many things. And so when we can start removing those barriers, then more folks are able to just go down the street and vote, bring littles with us, because you know you're going to be in and out in 20 minutes. And that means we know when more folks vote, more Democrats win, because we're seeing more and more of a collective and a group mindset or thought process. But yeah, I'm just rambling a little bit because I just really love your work.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think I ever said that. So I am the Black Constituency organizer at the Texas Democratic Party. This role has never existed, and the TDP hasn't had an organizing program in like 30 or so years. So this is a lot of it is very new, and that really came out of the 2018 election, and seeing how far Beto got, seeing how many Democrats were able to flip seats. We are 9 seats away from taking control of the Texas House. And we have some incredible candidates all across the state. So it is actually possible, which is very exciting. And I think because of that, the party realized, oh, we have an opportunity to turn Texas into the state that it wants to be. Like you said, Texas isn't necessarily a Republican state, it's a non-voting state. Some of that is lack of interest. A lot of that is voter suppression. And so what the party has really done is work to find all of those folks who historically maybe aren't participating in the process and figure out what some of those barriers are so that we can better support them. We have a great voter protection department who supports folks with who are newly off papers and getting them the tools that they need. Supports voters who are like, who like you are like, I'm not sure if I can actually vote anywhere. And you can call our voter assistance hotline and they'll look up your information and let you know what's going on so that voters can feel secure and empowered in what they're doing. And so for me, a lot of my work is focused on community advocacy and really just building trust between Black community members and the Democratic Party. I think what I heard from a lot of folks when I first started was, well, the Democrats always want to show up at church the Sunday before Election Day, and then we never see them again. And I'm like, honestly, like, you're not wrong. Like, I'm not disagreeing with that, but we recognize that that's not helpful, and that's not actually pushing, that's not pushing folks to be excited about the party. Like, we don't want people to feel like, well, I just kind of vote for them because it's the better choice, I guess. Like, we want people to be enthusiastic about their selections. So yeah, really building up that trust and putting in some local infrastructure with like our county parties, with our local chapters of Texas Coalition of Black Democrats, really helping support them so that after November 3rd, this doesn't all just go away. You know, we've got a legislative session starting in January. Then we've got a governor's race in 2022. And nobody is trying to restart from scratch year after year after year. So really like helping community members feel resourced and supported. And, you know, I always tell folks, you can always call me. If I don't have the answer, I will get you to the person who does. So that they feel like they've got someone at the party that they can call on and be like, hey, like, I wanted, like, I just had a conversation earlier. Someone was like, I want to do a phone bank, like, with some of the other parents in this group that I'm in. Like, how do we do that? And it's like, great, let's talk about that. Let's get you plugged into something. Let's get something on the calendar. And then just really making sure that people feel like they can call the Texas Democratic Party and, like, get what they need.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think, I feel like just as an outsider, like, I feel like, you know, Beto running just really kind of awoke some things in folks, you know, just kind of that, because it's, you know, it's kind of like the chicken and the egg. Like, if you feel like you can't get Democrats to show up and vote, you know, like, why invest resources there, you know? But I think he did a good job of just getting some excitement going to where it's like, no, like, even if we don't win this, like, at least let's show up and vote. And I think us showing up and vote, especially in like some, you know, suburbs and stuff, like some areas that like just like all of a sudden, oh wow, that's a blue district all of a sudden, you know. I think
all of a sudden
that, yeah, it was a very it was really cool to watch.
Yeah, hi, what's her name?
This is Nora.
Nora, hi, you can join.
She just wanted to sit here so that she can watch the TV. I'm like, we have the TV so that you'd be distracted for 30 minutes, but
I want to be as close to you as possible.
I appreciate that.
While also not actively engaging with you.
Yep, that's Nora. Yep.
Yeah, Nora, I get it. I think I'm still that way with my mom. Just, like, I'll call her and be like, oh, like, Mom, like, my car, like, I got to take it to the mechanic. And she's like, okay. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Just come with me, right?
She's like, okay, so call the mechanic. And I'm like, but fine. I don't feel great about calling the mechanic myself, but so just so you know, it never goes away. And, you know, speaking of Nora, I imagine there are definitely some issues that are super important to you. You know, when we think about what's on our heart and issues that, you know, really matter to us. And so would love to hear a little bit about like what like is really motivating you to like get involved this year.
Yeah, I think, well, you know, obviously there's a lot of anxiety and tension in the air right now with, like there's just so much that's happened over the last 4 years that, I felt like I have to do something. Like I can't look back when Nora's an adult and Nora is like, hey, what did you do in that crazy 2020 year? I was like, oh, I voted. It's like, well, I want to do more than that, but there's a pandemic. And so, I was kind of trying to think of like, what is something I could do for my house that, I could put some love into and create something that, could at least get people to remember some dates, when to vote, or how to do it, where you go, because it's not just about showing up at the polls. It's, knowing what's on your ballot. I think there's been a lot of times I get to the voting booth and I'm like, there's 27 propositions on here. I don't know what any of this is. And then you're kind of winging it. And so, a lot of the resources like vote411.org, they vote.org, you can actually look at a ballot, like this is what's going to be on your ballot in your district. And I think, the fact that voting was imparted to me from my mom, like my grandmother, we used to work the polls before she got too elderly. Like it, it's always like, to me, I look at voting like paying taxes, like it's just my duty as a civilian. And it's really the only time when we can, aside from protesting, like let government know what's important to us. I'm queer. I'm married. I've been married for 2 years now. I would not be able to be married to my partner had, I not voted for Obama, who got a couple of judges on the Supreme Court. Like literally, that's all it came down to, because Texas wasn't budging on that.
Yeah.
Just by the nature of where I live, the majority of folks did not want that. So that's a real life thing. Like in terms of religion, I'm Christian. However, like my Christian ideals line up with, hey, we shouldn't be separating kids from their parents at the border. Hey, loving parents, want to adopt, and they just so happen to be a queer couple, they shouldn't be denied the right to adopt. Let's feed the poor and the hungry. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like I'm asking for some basic stuff. We might have. Oh, there we go. Roneka will be back in just a moment when her internet comes back. I don't know if we said this. Serita, Black Constituency organizer at the Texas Democratic Party. I'm joined with Roneka Patterson, who is an incredible artist and did a great campaign to. Are you back? Sort of. Well, I can tell you some more about it. Who did a great visual kind of representation on what's going on with voting here in 2020 and what's accessible to people and not accessible, and kind of looking at the mail-in ballot situation as well. Again, you can see her art on her Instagram at RONEKAP. There she is. Oh, maybe. Well, while I wait for, maybe. Y'all, Mercury is in retrograde right now, and technology is not our friend. All right, well, give her a second. I know we were talking about issues that are on our hearts that we are really passionate about. Definitely can align with this idea of taking care of each other. I think I know the pandemic has really shined a really big bright light on inequities that a lot of us already knew were happening and have been kind of screaming into the void about for quite some time. But now other folks are having to face that and have to address that, right? And so we are moving forward, looking for ways in which we can actually make sure that there is a safety net to catch people, so that during a pandemic, people aren't stressed about their health care, about a job, about child care. They can actually just focus on being safe and taking care of their family, which is why I'm really grateful to work for the party and to get to talk about voting for Democrats up and down the ballot. I always tell people your local elections are the most important elections, in my opinion, because they allow you to have the biggest impact on your day-to-day life. Obviously, the president is important. Obviously, your senators are important, but your local elections impact like who your judges are and who your city council members are and who your some of your sheriffs are. And so when we are out in the streets protesting and demanding change, we can also demand change in the ballot box. And you're back. Hello.
I am so sorry about it. My phone literally it was like no, and it just froze. So I was like, I've never seen this.
What you thought you were doing, but you're done.
not anymore.
Yeah,
sorry about that.
Well, welcome back. Don't worry, we worked it out. But yeah, you were talking about how your faith really allows you to see what's important for you, which is taking care of families, making sure that kids aren't separated, making sure that people are able to love who they love and build a family together. And I was just saying, the pandemic has obviously shined a bright light on a lot of these inequities, and we can push for a society and a system in which we don't have pandemics on these scales, right? Because we've got better management. And B, even if and when it happens, people aren't stressed about everyday things and can focus on keeping themselves safe, keeping their families safe, and just living through this collective trauma that is a global pandemic.
I think, we're not going to feel the ramifications of this year for a couple of years, and then it's going to be, this is a mental health crisis that we've been in this year, definitely.
Yes, my background's in social work. I really focused on policy and community organizing, but even still, always thinking about how is the individual and mental overall collective health impacted by. I worked a lot with folks experiencing homelessness. But yeah, thinking about living through a pandemic and how that will forever change a generation and the way we think, the way we act, the way we respond to things. We make fun of grandparents or aunts, uncles, whatever, who act a certain way around things. But it's there was a trauma there, that collective trauma that made that happen. And it's not always easy to step outside of that trauma brain. And so I think, again, coming back to this issue of voting, having space for mental health, for people to get the help that they need, so that we're not all just rigid all the time. We can get the support that we need. We can process, finally let the exhale happen on all that 2020 has been, and it's not even done yet. I'm there's still 2 months after this. I am tired.
Oh man, I was telling a friend of mine last night. We were walking. We go to the walk at the lake once a week, and I was telling him, I was I'm gonna have some type of breakdown after the election. I was I don't know what kind of breakdown it's gonna be, but it will be a breakdown because it's just been a year, and I'm due for a cry. I'm due for a release of some sort, so it's gonna happen.
Yes, my friends and I, we have a Black Friendsgiving scheduled for the weekend after the election, because we were we just need to know that we will have a space where you can eat, you can be safe, you can let all your feelings out, and just let our brains dissolve all of what the election cycle has been, and just what 2020 has been. We're there's gonna be 6 of us, we'll be socially distanced, we were great, we can do it safely. Because even when you're trying to take care of yourself during a pandemic, you still have to think about a pandemic.
Yeah, there's still rules to this. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
turns out it doesn't just go away because we want it to,
Yeah,
as much as
yeah.
we would like. There's no off switch on it.
No.
But that being said, and thinking about how to be civically engaged and how to be involved in this process, I know your work was really looking at how the inability for a lot of folks to access vote by mail compromises a lot of other things and forces a lot of other things to happen for folks voting in person. Just for the folks watching, here in Texas, vote by mail, you are eligible to vote by mail if you are over 65 and older, if you have a disability, if you will be out of town for both early vote and election day, or if you are incarcerated without a felony. So that's typically folks who are awaiting trial, who maybe couldn't post bail, who are still eligible to vote by mail, which that's a pretty limited group of folks. When we think about, Texas has some of the most restrictive vote by mail laws, not the most, but they're pretty intense. And, the Democratic Party fought this in court. We took it all the way to the, Texas, to the highest court here in Texas, to say that during a pandemic, everyone should be covered in wanting to stay safe and stay at home and be able to still vote. Of course, we did not get that. It's okay. We were working around it. Our polling places, everyone's got masks. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. We're figuring it out and adjusting as we need to. But again, that idea that, well, here's this really simple way that everyone could do this, or more folks could do this and could feel safe about this. Well, that means we don't want to do it. So we'll go with this more complicated version where now we have to build out space. And again, I'm so excited for places like Houston. I keep talking about Houston because that's where my family is, where they're piloting 24-hour voting. So for people who don't work traditional 9-to-5s can still get in, or even folks who are working a 9-to-5, you don't have to worry about taking time off. You can get there when you get there, cast your vote, and be done. They're piloting drive-through voting so that you don't even have to get out of your car, minimizing contact. And really just trying to be creative and innovative to work around these barriers that we know are intentionally put in place because there are certain groups of folks that don't want everyone to vote. And so if we put these really complicated measures in the way, then everyone won't. It'll feel like too much. It'll feel too hard. People will feel like engaging maybe isn't possible. So I was saying this earlier, I really appreciated your art because it was so consumable. And you're on social media, which at this point, I think we all are just kind of attached to, for better or for worse. I have to sometimes put my phone in a drawer and just be like, you're not touching it for the next half hour. You've been in too deep, and between Twitter and Instagram and work emails and whatever. But still, it's in a place that folks can get to it. It's really to the point and easy for folks to understand. It's obviously visually pleasing, and so you've managed to make something that is often inaccessible feel very accessible.
Yeah, and I think that's really my only goal with it, was just I want to give some folks some real tangible information. This is how you find out where you go vote. This is how to find out if you're registered to vote. Because it's not just, are you registered? Are you still on the rolls? Because there's been roll purges,
That's a real one.
And so, it's just little, there's trick doors. There's, trick doors everywhere. So it's here's how you can kind of navigate around that. And if you do make it to vote in person, if you need to bring a chair, do that too, because sometimes the lines are going to be super long, So I just wanted to give some factual, your date. Here's, where you can go to find what's on your ballot. Here's just some mental encouragement for, if there's some things that are thrown your way,
Yeah, I super love that, and I think it's really great. And I love that you brought your babe with you to go vote.
I went this morning. She wasn't with me this morning because, pandemic, but generally I always try to bring her because that's what my mom did for me. So it's we're in this household, we vote.
Yeah, right. And that's what I thought. She was like, look, we are a voting household.
Yeah.
So get on board. Well, we are coming close to time. So before we go, just want to give you space. Anything else you want to share with folks watching? How folks can follow your work, whatever you want.
Yeah, you can follow me at Roneka P. Like I said, I'm mostly a photographer. That's kind of what I like to share on social because, my day job is my day job. Nobody cares about that. But yeah, you can follow me there. And I would just say, like everyone's been saying, have a plan when you vote. Just have a plan. Like, think about like what time of day you can go. Make sure that you know what's on your ballot because it's not just, oh, I'm voting for president. Like you're voting for a slate of people. And just have an idea of like what's going on in your community. Like I didn't realize that they had kind of gotten rid of the straight party tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I found that out today. And it's one of those things like it makes it easier to vote if you're kind of like I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, whatever. But they don't have that anymore here in Texas. So just understand what's going to be on your ballot and just get familiar with what that process looks like and do it every time. Every election. Everyone, even the little ones,
The little ones,
get in the
they
habit
add
of
up to something big,
they
y'all.
do. They add up. They add up. I promise. They
Yeah,
add up.
they
So yeah, vote
matter.
every time. Yeah.
I know you're like, oh, it's just my water board. No, like that means something. I promise.
Yep. 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 You need to know who your comptroller is.
Yes, you do. That person handles money. You
Yep.
want to know all
There you
the people
go.
who handle money in your community.
There you go.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
I've
this is great.
agreed. Make a plan. If you need to look up stuff on your ballot, you can go to mytexasvotes.com. You can look up polling place, who's on your ballot. You can, absorb the information, write a note down for yourself because I get it. There can be a lot sometimes. So you can feel prepared. And bring a friend,
Yes.
stay 6 feet apart from each other, but
Yeah.
even if you don't bring them, check in with them. I think it's super important to check in on the folks in your life and make sure they have a plan. At this point, I think my friends and family are tired of me asking them.
Yeah, my mom sent me a photo of her ballot because she's a senior citizen. So she's like, all right, I just got it. It's going in today to the mail today. I was like, okay, we're checking off.
My mom's in Nevada, so she was able to vote by mail, and she texted me and she was like, I got it. I'm putting it in the mail. Like, we're ready to go. But yeah,
That's
and
great.
Thank you so much to Vote Your Heart 2020 for bringing us together. This has been lovely. You can check out their work, our work as well, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Serita.
Bye.